Thanks for staying tuned. It's still iBrand Daybreak. Now it's time to bring you up to date regards our topical issue for the day. The police have arrested a suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, and 4 other police officers. Kyari and the 4 other police officers were arrested for criminal conspiracy, discreditable, unethical, and unprofessional conduct, as well as official corruption and tampering with exhibits in a case of illicit drug trafficking involving a perpetual transnational drug cartel, the police statement said. Kyari was suspended last August following an FBI indictment linking him to money launderer Ramon Abbas, also known as Hush Puppy, who is awaiting sentencing by U.S. courts for his role in cybercrimes. Before that, Kyari was lauded as Nigeria's most decorated cop and a deputy commissioner of police in charge of the force's intelligence response team until his suspension. It was conferred with a Presidential Medal for Courage from Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016. Now, joining us via the phone to discuss this arrest and the scandal in terms of the NDLEA arrest of Abba Kyari is Charles Ideho, a public affairs analyst. Charles, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Margaret.
Okay, let's. It is definitely bad times for the Nigerian police force in terms of the image, because this is a high-ranking official, one who has won presidential medals and all. What do you make of all of this? Let's start from there. What do you make of this scandal?
Okay. Well, thank you again for having me. I think for me, as a journalist myself, who of course have been plying my trade for quite a while, and as a proud Nigerian, so I think it's a very bad precedent for all of us, because for us to have security agencies, particularly police, that's a responsibility of cracking on criminal activities and all that, helping to that's supposed to help to crack open some of those criminal activities and then apprehend the criminals. You still find some of them still emerged, and they're having a kind of what we say being part of the problem. I think it's not good. It's not very glorious. It's not something we have to applaud at all, because if you have a police system that is also corrupt, then you see that the nation is not going to make progress at all. So that's why I said I think it's a lose-lose situation for us as a country, because it's going to further dent our image in the eye of the international community. So that's why I'm going to say that the authorities should leave no stone unturned to ensure that whoever is culpable, it may not be only Abba Kyari. Abba Kyari is just a metaphor, if you will. It's just a metaphor for the high level conspiracy, high level all this cartel that is happening in the country. So I think there are so many other Abba Kyaris you find everywhere in Nigeria today. So many Abba Kyari. So if the authorities are not going to treat this with kid glove, and we bring everyone that is involved to book, I'm sure we might be on our way to cleaning up the system, Margaret.
All right. For a high-ranking officer, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it doesn't sit well, that the image of Nigeria is at stake in the eyes of the international communities, because I was coming to that. So what do you expect of the police force? I know you mentioned the fact that they have to do take all necessary measures to make sure those culpable are brought to book, but what are the specific things you expect the police force should do, because that's a dent on the image of the police and Nigeria in itself?
Well, ideally, I would expect the police to be self-cleansing, to ensure that they do what they call a proper, I think there's a word for it in the Bible, a proper restoration, if you will, to be able to cleanse themselves, to ensure that the image that has been battered, they begin to look at how they can whitewash themselves and launder their image in a positive manner. But not the Nigerian police that we've come to know. If you look at even since this Abba Kyari was arrested, or he had a case from August last year, and until now, it seems as if the police is still trying to exonerate him. You understand? And look at when a committee was set up, a panel was set up and met to unravel the causes and his complicity in the Hush Puppy case. The police came out and they were almost giving him a clean bill of health until the police service commission officer now said, no, this report, no, you go back and redo it. So if you look at, if you're saying what you expect the police, I expect the police to actually, as I said, to be self-cleansing and ensure that they absorb themselves of what this man, the ignominy that this man has brought upon them, to ensure that they say, no, we cannot accept it. So let's begin to clean the image and make the Nigerian police a police of pride for all of us. But it may not happen if you look at the antecedents of Nigerian police, both in the past, in the recent past, and even the present. So that's why I also maybe advise them to cooperate with the ndlea, cooperate with other agencies that are charged with the responsibility of getting these things sorted out, so that we can begin to have a police that all of us can beat our chest and say they can rank among those of the other nation. Because anytime they are sent on peacekeeping mission, they always bring Lawrence back home. But it's only when we have domestic issues that you have police being culpable and being complicit in some of these criminal activities, Margaret.
Okay. You talked about precedents. I'll definitely delve into that in a minute. But you also talked about self-cleansing by the police force.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at this issue of self-cleansing in that regard. More often than not, we've heard of reports wherein a police officer is suspended, or as the case may be, is terminated from the force. But there are reports that such a fellow was seen probably in Borno State or Kaduna State, working elsewhere, basically. Now, Kyari was meant to be on suspension, but according to the ndlea report, he was still acting with his team, like he was still acting like he was a police officer carrying out his duties. So it begs the question, what sort of punishment is that if an officer who is meant to be suspended from official duties can still use the name of his office and the uniform and what have you to still perpetrate these nefarious acts?
Well, the thing is that your question is very straightforward and well understood. But as I said, it's quite hard for us to be seeing the police that we are having today, and it saddens the heart of everyone, every well-meaning Nigeria, that we are having such a police that's undergoing inquiries, undergoing trials and all that. You expect him to carry on as if nothing has happened. That's to tell you that this world, there's a word that exists in the military. They call it esprit de corps. Esprit de corps has to do with man no man.
Yes.
Yoruba will say awarawa, if you will. Yoruba will say awarawa. Just now we won't be this one.
Yes.
So if you begin to have them throw up this esprit de corps in the force, whether it's the mainstream force or the paramilitary force, there's never a time that we ever bring anybody to book. I mean, the case in point, the one we're just looking at as the case of Abba Kyari, who of course has been indicted, even though he has not faced trial by any court of competent jurisdiction. But if you are facing trial, well, it beholds the authorities to say, okay, they're going to have this guy has to hands off everything he's doing, but yet is he carrying on as if nothing has happened? So it tells you that this policy of esprit de corps is not helping at all. It's rather putting the force, putting the whole country as a lavish stock in the eyes of the international community. So we must begin to tell the authorities that the same question I mentioned earlier is that the IGP has to stand up to its responsibility in order to say, okay, this issue is this one is well favored. Maybe it's from the north, it's from the south. All of this one should be of the past. We should throw them overboard and let them sink in the ocean, so that all of us can have a clean police system, a clean system. We can, some of us who travel as journalists, we can be respected over there when we travel abroad.
All right, Chelsea, the whole Abba Kyari is, of course, he has the name the Super Cop, and also he's the most decorated police officer. Also, he bagged the medal of courage by the president. Now, that brings me to the question: for all of this attributes are attached to him, this honor attached to him, I believe that in systems that are workable systems, before we attach so much to some people, there should be background checks to be sure that there are no traces. And I also believe that all of this issue of money laundering, collaborating with drug traffickers and all of that did not start today. It was just caught today, right? But with all of those things, of course, it's been ongoing. There shouldn't have been a background check before, of course, before attributing so much to a person who is now more like denting the image of the nation and of the police force in itself?
Let me tell you something about the Abba Kyari being decorated and all that. I think it's, for me, if you look at it, I can't recall there's a unit in the police force. I can't recall which of them now. When Abba Kyari was, first of all, when his case came up, there were reports in the media that what Abba Kyari was doing, allegedly so, was that when they take, first of all, when you have a case in the police, a certain session will pick it up, and then they will now go to another session to say, okay, we want information, we want files of so person. There were this allegation that each time they went to Abba Kyari, to IROT, investigation of something, the response team, it will seize the case file and begin to prosecute it. After the other police session had done about 80% of the investigation, Abba Kyari will use his offices to now get hold of it and finish the case, and they will now be applauding him as being responsible in the person of the crimes. So most of these decorations and all will no end if you want to go by this allegation I just told you now. You understand? It's just like us in the media. A reporter will go and then do investigation and everything. He now hands, okay, editor, I need to go. So editor will now take over the case, and editor will now be the one decorated. It's the same thing we're talking about. Is it the editor that work for it, or is the reporter or the correspondent on the field? So there were people on the field who were working. As we get to that point where they will require the case file, and this Abba Kyari will take over the whole thing, and then we now start decorating him. I think those decorations were not properly aimed at all, if you ask me, going by this allegation. So that's why I said the police must do everything possible to ensure they clean their own image, and in the long run, all of us as a Nigerian country will also benefit from that image cleansing.
Okay, Charles, we've talked about some of these concerns. Now let's look at possible solutions. You talked about precedents earlier, and yes, you're right. Since 1930, when the force was established, there have been allegations of corruption, brutality, amongst other things. Perhaps the pinnacle of all of those scandals and controversies was that of Mustafa Adebayo Balogun, the former Inspector General of Police in 2005, who was found complicit of embezzling over 13 billion naira, and he had a plea bargain with the government before being sentenced to 6 months. Now, let's take it from that angle, because we've called for reforms in the police sector, from state policing to what have you, but now reforms in terms of the law enforcement agents themselves being on the side of the law. They're the ones who are meant to enforce the law. They shouldn't be against the law in terms of being on the wrong side of the law. So what reforms or measures will you suggest should be implemented within the police force to ensure that corruption is kept to its barest minimum, there's police brutality to its barest minimum, amongst all other atrocities that have marred the police force over the years?
Okay, no, good. Now you started a case, a very, very interesting case. You started an antecedent. We had an antecedent in President
2005.
Tafa Balogun, right?
Yes.
Tafa Balogun,
the former IG.
Yes, which was when it was during the
no rebuttal EFCC.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
That was during the administration of
Obasanjo, yes.
Obasanjo. And what did it do? Obasanjo, even though you see Obasanjo at that time, Tafa Balogun is of the Yoruba stock. Obasanjo as the president was is also of the Yoruba stock. But he did not look at this paracord, what they call paracord, He didn't look at that.
Yes.
He knew that the man was going to run that police station, unit, police force at ground. What did he do in order to save a name from ignominy and infamy? What did he do? He sacked him, and did he not sack him? He jailed him. He had him
jailed. Yes.
So exactly that's how responsible the leader of the country should be. So I expect the CEC that we have today to also look at that case and take a cue from that precedent set by Obasanjo to say enough is enough, and say whoever he can. He is the commander-in-chief. What is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces?
Yes.
He commands all of them, so he can give it. We don't have. He don't have to have any recourse to the National Assembly.
Definitely.
To say something should be done. That's why in management, there's what they call be slow to hire and
Fire.
So if you are slow to fire, that's what happens. Because it was supposed that we had this body, what they call it, body language to the president when he just assumed office, everybody was afraid. But no sooner that he came in, about 1 year after, people saw that it was just body. The language was just for body. There was no action. So I expect him to pick up the file of what Obasanjo did at that time, and then also give a standing order that anyone called people, particularly in this case, should be dealt with. If they do that, it will serve as a deterrent.
Okay, Charles.
People who might do same.
Charles, due to time constraints, in 30 seconds, please, in 30 seconds, how do we restore the trust between the police force and the communities they serve in terms of the people? In 30 seconds, please.
Okay, 30 seconds. Well, the way to do that is that when anybody is caught, anybody is investigated and he's jailed, I think it will serve as being corrective. People who have other intentions will learn from that and do well.
Okay, thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Charles Ideho, a public affairs analyst, joining us on the show there, and we had so much to say regards the latest scandal that has marred the Nigerian police force. Let's see as justice takes its course in due time.